You might remember Flat Stanley, the little cutout character that travels around with students in their tiny elementary school folders.
And because we know that everyone could use a little whimsy and something interactive and fun, we created Flat Shakespeare.
Yep, that's right. Flat Shakespeare. And he's just as fun as you think he is. Head to shop.bravenewteaching.com/Flat Shakespeare or the show notes for this episode to download your own Flat Shakespeare.
All you have to do is then assign him to your students, ask them to cut him out, color him in, and then they can run around taking pictures with him all over town.
All over town. And along with your free download, we also provide a list of 10 activity ideas for your classroom. Seriously, the possibilities are endless, and Flat Shakespeare is sure to become one of your students' favorite classroom memories, just like they've become some of my students' favorite classroom memories.
Again, that's shop.bravenewteaching.com/Flat Shakespeare, or head down to the show notes of this episode. Have fun!
Well, hello and welcome back to Brave New Teaching. Hello, Amanda.
Hello, Marie. How are you?
I am fine. I'm finding any different way that I can say your name bizarrely from the very beginning of the podcast. And I like it.
Amanda.
We've talked about that one before. Did we talk about that one on Happy Hour or on the main podcast?
I don't know, but it's one I'm glad you don't use that often because I'm over it. Okay.
Well, because we've told everybody, my sister's name is Amanda, and I used to torture her with that one often.
It's
so
funny
I just feel like I've overused it. Yeah.
Well, duh doesn't even make sense to kids anymore. It's not even funny.
No, it's not. But I don't care about the kids. I care about me.
But I'm hoping that like young Amandas out there are doing better than I did.
You're talking about Amandas in posterity. Like
correct.
Okay,
correct.
Got it.
All of us out there who got shackled with this name. Yes.
Shackled. I like that name. Okay. That makes one of us.
It's fine. It's fine.
I like your name.
Mine.
Some of my favorite people are named Amanda. I'm just saying.
I mean, that's true. I mean, we are well liked. That's for sure.
Yeah, that is true. See? There you go.
Usually not on the list of mean girls, but you never know.
I don't know. Marie is just like old Victorian women.
Yeah, it is a little bit. What happened? What's going on over there? Guys, Marie is looking distressed.
Sorry. I think it's my neighbor sawing something, but from inside of my office with these headphones on while we're recording, it sounds like the Terminators have made it to the year 2024. Like that's what it's
Uh-oh. It would start in California, though. It would start in California. We know this to be true.
Oh, for sure. As close to Los Angeles as possible. Yes. Okay. Anyways, let's get back to business here, shall we? Sorry, everybody. That just freaked me out for a second. And then I was like, oh, you live in, a neighborhood. Calm yourself.
It's not the end. Not yet.
We want to share with you today an activity that we spent a lot of time curating and creating and have barely talked about because
that's true. A lot of you have downloaded it, but we have not really talked about it.
We have barely talked about it. And we were so excited when we were making it. And it's very much like a kind of compilation of different activities each of us has done with creative writing in our classrooms. And then we were like, do you know what would be a great way to package this and make it really usable for teachers? And then we just never talked about it.
Yeah, that sounds about right for us.
Yeah, which sounds about right? So if you can relate to that, if you've made an awesome activity and then just never did it in your classroom,
or never,
that's where we're at. But it's called the Inspiration Cube. And the Inspiration Cube is a free download. So if you would like to get yourself the Inspiration Cube, head to the show notes for this episode. Go to shop.bravenewteaching.com. Look at our freebies. Because if you want to see what we're talking about as we talk about it, that would be a very good idea. I'm excited to use it. It's inspired by a few different things, but it's intended to help students break past their kind of fear and anxiety of coming up with things on their own and just give them something to start them off and then let their creativity flourish.
I actually used this before I left the classroom. I used it when I was helping some of my juniors write some personal essays and Common App essays. One of my signature moves for a personal statement is to begin with kind of a tangential metaphor.
Yeah.
And so that's
great.
exactly what this was able to do for us. So we wanted to just take you through a quick walkthrough of the lesson and claim a permanent space of the internet where we can send people to learn about this activity. And that's pretty much today.
That is fantastic. Yes, exactly what we're doing today. We're actually going to play and do it together. So I was trying, before we started recording, I was trying to see if how loud you all could hear me rolling the paper die that we're going to be making. And Amanda said that it was not hitting the way I wanted it to. So you're all just going to have to imagine a paper die.
She's going to roll it, but you're not really going to hear it.
You're not going to hear much. It's not going to be an ASMR experience that I had intended, which is fine. I will get over it. And you want to know when I'm going to get over it? Right now. Cue the music.
You're listening to Brave New Teaching, and we are so much more than a podcast.
We give teachers the inspiration, support, and tools to challenge the status quo.
I'm Amanda, and I'm a former English teacher from Illinois.
And I'm Marie, and I'm a teacher from Southern California.
Join us at bravenewteaching.com to find out more about our courses, festivals, and get every episode's show notes.
We're so glad you're here. Enjoy the show. All right, so the Inspiration Cube. When you download the Inspiration Cube, if you've not already done so, or if you did and then you were like, moving on, I'm going to look at it later, we have 2 prepackaged lesson ideas for you. So what you'll get, actually, Amanda, tell them what they've won.
You won a free lesson to use in multiple ways, which is why we love it so much. So what we're going to send you is the Inspiration Cube. It's a PDF download. You're going to have multiple cubes that can be cut and pasted. You'll see like the little tabs. They're super cute. You fold them and you're going to glue them together. So you're going to have, how many do we have? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we have 3 cubes done for you.
With visual cues, yes.
With visual, right. So the cube has, all faces of the cube have pictures. So get in line for your color printer. And then the 4th cube is one that is actually blank and just has categories. So we can talk about, well, maybe we should do a separate walkthrough on that one because it's kind of unique. But the main 3 are basically, right, so you fold the cube, you're going to then look at the very first page of your download and decide which lesson idea you're going to use to implement this activity. So whatever you want, we'll walk you through them both, play around, and then we can talk about that kind of funky cube at the end, right, Marie?
Yeah, which is actually my favorite one because it's just fun. I love it. So here we're going to use the one that if you're looking through, I can't remember which one this is in the order, but it's got the girl eating a hamburger.
Got it.
One of them, and it's got open books and a koala. They're like all in line together across the middle. So that's the one that we're going to be using today. Huh?
I'm just laughing at the mashup of ridiculousness
Pictures?
here.
I know. Well, and kind of the weirder the better. And students will, some students will have a hard time because they'll be like, I don't know what to do. And so there are some different strategies, quite a few that we talk about actually in the poetry and creative writing workshop for like lessening the stakes for students, and just making this not a threatening. I think that's why creative writing can be so hard for kids. As they get older, the social pressures make them afraid of being embarrassed in front of their peers. Whereas when they're little, they're just weird. And that's why early elementary has a much easier time with creative writing than as kids get older. And so we're trying to tap back into that, like a bit of that wonder of young kids and how silly they can get without social worry, you know?
And we talk about in the workshop too, this idea of interrupt linear thinking. That was a phrase that came up over and over and over again. And I started to make a shirt. I need to go back and make that shirt, but that's our goal so much in, and oh my gosh, now I'm like all jazzed again, because this is why so many of our kids struggle in other areas, is that they're trying to make everything fit neat or to make everything look the way that they think other people want it to look, right? Whether that's outlining an essay, writing an argument, whatever it might be, answering reading questions, right? Like there's this I'm trying to do what I'm told and I want to follow these step by step. A creative writing or a poetry unit is wonderful to break kids up a little bit and like break their brains in a way that we remind them that things can be messy and then put together in, like, I think about what's our good friend, Emmett, right? I think about the Lego movie. And being a builder is not always about following the instructions. It's about being creative and putting things together in a way that makes sense to you, that solve the problem you want to solve, but it doesn't have to be the same way that everyone else does. And I just think a poetry unit is the perfect way to Legoland your students. And this activity in particular makes things real weird, real fast.
So like we said, the Inspiration Cube download comes with 2 different lesson ideas. And so we're just going to kind of like walk through the first one. Okay. So here I am. I have my cube. I'm sitting with my partner. Her name is Amanda. You may have heard of her. And I am going to roll the cube. But before that, I have in front of me a little like plot diagram, right? Of exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution. And now I'm going to roll the cube. And every time we roll the cube, we're going to fill in a different piece of our 5-part plot diagram. So, okay, here I go. Rolly, rolly. My first one is a person that I've rolled. It's a person looking out at what looks like they're wearing like the yellow raincoat and looking at a very stormy sky and looking at the horizon of like kind of a very dark sea. So where do we want to put that, Amanda?
Exposition.
Okay, excellent. Here, I should actually write this down.
Well, because we can, like, if teachers speak for a moment, like you can also force their hand, right? Like you can say the order of the roles is the order of the plot diagram, period. Or like Marie said,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes.
Kids can choose too. Those are 2 different ways of doing the exact same lesson.
And the odds are very high that we will end up back on the same role a couple of times, which means that the story will come back to whatever it is, or it'll be inspired by a different aspect of that photo. So the first one is going to be, stormy sea. So that's going to be what we take from that picture. Okay, Amanda, you roll.
Can you also put down just our character? We have, we don't know if it's our protagonist or antagonist, but we definitely have.
Can we just call it the lonely figure?
The lonely figure.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
The lonely figure staring at a stormy sea. Exposition.
There we go.
Okay, you roll rising action.
Okay. Or inciting incident. What do we want to have? Do we care?
I feel like inciting incident leading to rising action. Like, let's just like make that all be one.
All right. So rolling my dice. And I have rolled a stack of open books or journals. Like there's in the background, it's kind of blurry, but there are definitely it's a book stack. And then in the foreground is like an open book. And then underneath of it is another open journal. There's definitely writing in it, but there are no people. They are abandoned.
But there's a pen. Okay.
But there is a pen. So someone was just here actively thinking, working this. Oh my gosh. Like these first 2 sets of images have got me thinking about Outer Banks. This is like really embarrassing.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. So number 3, I will roll. Yes. Okay.
Roll.
So we're rolling for the climax. Rolling. I've got, the cityscape. Okay. There's like a view. It looks like it's like looking out a window or like past a window at a high rise, like a downtown. So I'm just going to write downtown.
Far from where we began at the sea.
From where we began. Okay.
As we know. Okay, I'm rolling now too. And I have rolled on a neutral looking koala. This koala bear looks neither sinister nor friendly.
Of course you did the koala. Of course you did the koala.
But here's the thing. Like I said, the koala is a neutral one. So I think we have some flexibility with...
We do. And it's just inspiration. I've already got some ideas for how we can outline our story, which I'm excited about.
And what's fun about this is like you need to let students like relax because their first instinct might be their worst idea. And like that's okay. And then we can also give you, when we kind of get through the rest of our roles, remind me to go through and like give you a couple other like scaffolding things here. So kids don't just stop. They have a place to go. So, okay. Last roll.
Last roll. Okay. And, we're back at the open books.
Oh, we're back at the open books again. Okay.
Yep. Back at the open books. So, okay, now we have to do the fun part, which is think through our story.
So now, and again, and from the teacher's perspective, let's talk about this. Like, where do you go from now? Where do you go from here? I guess you could say.
Okay. So yes. So you go ahead, finish what you were going to say. And then I'm going to tell you what our roles made for our plot diagram.
Okay, perfect. So you work on that. So I'll talk. So for me, like, I think that this is really dependent on your age group and your writer's comfort level. Like if this is a creative writing course and you're like already going, like there's one option for you there, which is probably they could just start writing and that's it. If you're working with younger students or less comfortable narrative writers, you can actually take a back step. You could have had students stop to write at each role, right? We could have, at the exposition, we could have stopped and said, okay, I want everyone to write an exposition or bullet point out an exposition. So they're kind of drafting as they go. So when we get to the end, there's more on the page than just what Marie wrote down. And then again, the other idea for you to do is a timed write and give students a finite set of time and they can choose the section that they write. Maybe if they're working in a group, they all blindly write their own section. And then the activity becomes the editing, right? The pulling the pieces together, being cohesive, and like the editing and revision to make it into something. So those are just a few kind of fun ideas, but I'm dying to hear what Marie has to say. I have ideas for the koala too.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well, so here's how I would and will actually be using this cube in my classroom. And this is another one of the activities actually that I talk about in our poetry and creative writing workshop, which is a 3-page scene. So it's playwriting or screenwriting or whatever it is, but it's a 3-page scene. It's a playwriting challenge, 3 pages. And so in 3 pages, you have to have the entire story. So it would open with a stormy sea. There's a lonely figure staring out at the horizon, and the storm is brewing out in the distance. And we cut to, this is actually somebody who is deep into their journal and they're writing, maybe they're like writing poetry or something like that. Okay. And like the inspiration just comes. I think this is probably going to be a screenwriting, because the inspiration comes to them and comes to them and comes to them in all of these different images. And they see the image of the sea and they see the image of the wind, or, you know, like something blowing in the wind, and they see all of these different things. And then their thoughts are suddenly interrupted by like the sirens and horns and things of a downtown city. And we zoom out to see that they are actually in like a library at closing time.
Ooh.
And they have to leave or something like that. And so on their, I don't know if maybe it's like the koala to me has become like their pet cat or like pet dog. And they like get home to their apartment. And they're like going through, you know, like daily life, whatever. And like their thoughts keep trying to wander back to the story that they were creating or being inspired by. And like their responsibilities is what like keeps them grounded and like home. And then they go to sleep and they're like right back in the journal or something like that. And that's like really, were they awake? Were they asleep? Was it? Yeah.
Wow. That's like so tame.
Yes.
And like beautiful and poetic.
Thank you. I think in short films, I've realized my brain works in a series of short films.
I had our lone character looking out at sea at a shipwreck, right? And on this shipwreck, some very valuable treasure having been lost in the water. This is where I was going, Outer Banks, right? Outer Banks style. And then I had like the books and the journal in my head were right the research to find the wreck and figure out how, you know, like maybe fast forward, right? Like 20,
James
30, 40,
Cameron going to the Titanic. Yes.
And then, okay, so whatever. But like my koala idea, and this is something that I would also give students, is like you can give them a T-chart. I like to give my kids permission to interpret their pictures literally or metaphorically or representationally. So sometimes like the koala could be like a name brand or an acronym, or it's something that they noticed it's not necessarily part of the story. It can become a very tiny little detail, but like there's an exhibit at the zoo going on right now where you can feed the koalas. Like I had been meaning I wanted to do that. Like it can be, it doesn't need to fit into the plot line if you don't want it to. And although on the first draft, I'm going to make you include it, the final draft is all yours. Like every part of this can be rearranged, edited, and deleted. Like this is right. The idea is for the first draft, we want to interrupt linear thinking, see what happens. And remember that like if you put your koala in the story at this very random point and it feels dumb, you never know what came on the other side of dumb, right? Like you might have resisted this whole idea, but like you wrestling with this seemingly idiotic idea actually got you to a really cool conclusion that you might not have gotten to otherwise. So even if koala disappears, you still got to this pretty cool conclusion. So that is a win.
Yeah. Yes.
It's so fun.
Okay, so lesson 2 is the blank cube at the very end of your little download. And there are a couple different ways you could do this. So the blank cube on its 6 different faces are country, building, weather, room, friend, enemy. Kids can either fill them in themselves, or you can use the category ideas that we have for you. And I've had it where kids just roll and then have to pick one, and then roll and have to pick one, and roll, have to pick one. Or if they're like really, going for it, they roll and then they come up with their own ideas.
Which is fine.
It's that's so fun. I mean, this is one of those times. Do you guys remember? I mean, you remember, but I don't know if our listeners remember. There was a reel I put out a while ago with another one of our downloads where students were talking to each other and absolutely in fits giggling. And like that sound was just the best thing. And I put it on Instagram because I was like, this is the best thing. That is what happens when kids can get silly together.
Yes.
Right? And it's like low stakes and they're comfortable, and talk about community building where they're just like coming up with this like silly story, and it's basically no prep for you. You just run copies and lead them, and they make the thing, right? They cut it out and tape it all together, and they just get to have some fun and also let go. Like this is a great kind of, maybe you're going to do a poetry and or creative writing unit or activity, or maybe you just need to fill 15 minutes where students need to like have a little bit of break time, but you don't want it to be free. You still want them. We all have those moments where it's like, if I just let you guys go, you're going to burn down the world, but I don't want to give you busy work. So let's do something that's good for your brain. Here you go.
This is it.
Great activity to do so.
This is it. So this is fun to do. So this is fun to do in partners, in small groups. It's even fun to do whole class.
Oh yeah. So fun. Whole class.
I've done it where I am the one rolling at the front, and then I put kids in groups by the categories. So I have an enemy group, a friend group, a room group, a building group, a weather group, and a country group. And so when I roll, the group that I roll, they add their word.
They
right?
add to the story.
They add to the story. And then I'm like keeping this like running order of events. Like you can completely ditch the plot diagram if you want. You can just have an order of events. You can also ditch the order and use this for poetry. Like I've done this before where we will roll and roll and roll and roll. We'll get like a nice long list of seemingly unrelated ideas. And then I'll say, okay, now you're going to write a villanelle and you must use 10 of these 20 terms. And then they poop their pants and write some pretty incredible stuff.
Right. And then realize that they can actually totally do it.
They can totally do it.
They do it.
They have so much fun in their groups, like thinking like, oh, what they're going to suggest. And like when that suggestion becomes the bane of existence of their poem and they can't fit it in, they're like, curse you. And they get, it's great.
Why'd you have to tell us to put ketchup in it? Yeah. And you're
why is Tasmania part of the story? I don't even know where it is. Yeah.
It's funny. I love it. Yes.
It is great. So should we want to roll really quick so people can hear what it's, I mean, not literally hear because.
Do you want me to try the ASMR? Okay, here we go. Weather.
So then I would say it's going to be overcast.
It's going to be overcast. Okay. Okay.
Let's roll again. Enemy.
Ooh. Skim milk. The enemy is skim milk. I'm going directly from our category ideas. Overcast, skim milk.
Okay.
Should we do like a couple more? This doesn't even have a plot diagram. Yes.
No,
okay,
no,
I'll
just
go
Just a list.
Friend. Okay, friend.
Okay, so the friend will be the red M&M.
I knew you were going to say that.
Did you?
Yes.
It just felt right.
I already have a weird idea. Okay.
Let's next
one
roll.
more roll. One more roll.
Yeah, one more.
Okay.
We're gonna put them in a country.
Okay.
Where do you want them to go?
Definitely Norway.
Sure.
Okay. Norway's the one that threw me because I had this idea that our character is like something that could get soggy. Like it's like a
Oh my God, I love it. Well, then why don't we go to like a more tropical?
We can't
location.
change it. We can't change it, Amanda.
Excuse me.
So they could be on like a fjord. So
they could be an Arendelle.
Uh-huh. So the main character is going to be a graham cracker. Okay. And the graham cracker is waking up and they're already very nervous because it's going to be an overcast day. And last time it was an overcast day, it took him forever to dry back out again. And like he still never regained his regular shape, right?
Never.
And his mortal enemy is skim milk because every time he sees skim milk, he could just see himself falling apart in a glass of milk. Right?
It's terrible. Yes.
It's terrible. His best friend, the red M&M, is like, yeah, dude, I get it. The minute that anything wet touches me, like any milk or inclement weather, like I'm going to run all over the place, you know?
It's true. I'll lose
just
my
a puddle
color.
of red below me. Yeah, that's it. It's over for me. I'm dissolving. My candy coating, gone.
Dissolve.
And then they go to Norway. I don't know.
Okay, but this is the perfect example of where you can see like this would be a great activity even to do for rhetoric. I feel like we're writing the script of a commercial.
We are, right? I feel like I'm also being very vulnerable and showing everybody just how bizarre my brain can go.
Okay, no, that one was bizarre. The other one was very tame. So don't even.
Okay.
No, I was Outer Banksing everyone. So, but this is the joy, right? It's like, it doesn't also for us. I think that's the final reminder, right? Before we leave today, like you also have permission to interrupt your own linear thinking about teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace the mess, embrace the opportunities for students to think out loud about weird things and have no conclusion.
Yeah. Because we're about to leave you hanging, everybody.
Bye. But it's okay. I mean, not every lesson has to be this like cohesively beautiful, perfect, tied with a bow ending. Like that used to be a huge like complaint of mine was I understand why people and teachers and administrators like want everything to kind of come full circle, every lesson, everything. But at the same time, there is absolutely something to be said for embracing the mess and letting things not be resolved. And then we move on. Like it's okay. The thinking process is worth it, whether or not we can reflect upon it in a cohesive body paragraph.
Yeah. Totes my goats.
Because what if I wish we would have rolled it again, because I would have totally given, if I was going to put them in a room together, I would want graham cracker and the red M&M to be in a minivan. I feel like it feels like a good place for them to. And
I would have put them in like a leaky barn where like danger is literally at every corner, you know?
Yeah, that would have been.
Got to raise
harrowing
stakes, baby.
That would have changed the genre. So here, this is the what if game. If you guys listen to Happy Hour, we talk a little bit about this like what if game with poetry. Like this is it, right? Like if you were to change something on this list, what would happen?
What would it be? Oh, see, now I want to abandon everything I'm teaching and just do creative writing. So thanks a lot. This is so fun.
What if you abandon?
This is why I have an improv team at my school and I get to like just play this with them all day long.
Yeah.
All right. Well, friends, we hope that you try the Inspiration Cube with your students. And again, if you want more, make sure that you check out our poetry and creative writing workshop because it's got even more for you. And you like that workshop, I would say, really gets into some of our specific specialties because like I go really deep into theater and creative like writing in that way. And Amanda goes real deep into poetry. And so you can see where like our individual strengths lie. And it was just a fun one to put together. Obviously, we want to keep coming back to it. And we did 2 downloads for it, even though we normally only do 1 per workshop. And then we forgot about this one.
You know,
thank you so much, friends, for joining us. We hope you get to have a little bit of creativity in your classroom. Head to the show notes, head to shop.bravenewteaching.com, head to our freebies, do all the things. We hope you have a wonderful week at school, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Thanks again for listening to Brave New Teaching.
We'd love to keep the conversation going over on Instagram.
And while you're there, check out the links in our bio for the most up-to-date events going on in the Brave New Teaching community.
Thanks for being here and have a great week at school.